Welcome back, everyone. Talking more carry guns here today. It is such a big topic to talk about, and some of you shot some really good questions in on this stuff, so going to dig into it a little bit more. I think the reason that carry gun selection is so complicated is because it's a very individual choice, person to person. They're just going to pick different things, both their likes and aptitudes and body shapes. Everyone's body shape is different. And so what's really going to work for one person might not work for another person. And on top of that, there are a lot of people out there to sell you stuff for the purpose of selling you stuff. So it's hard to wade through what is actually innovative and functional, practical, and what is a widget. So that's tough. And the gun space itself is as guilty as anyone. So from a shooter's standpoint, if I need a gun, have a big one. All right. All the things that guns do are optimum when the gun is full size. Now, there are bigger guns than this. They maybe start to become less practical, but full size service pistols are ideal for all of the shooty bits. They have the most capacity. They have the most comfort, they're easiest to hold on to, the best recoil control, best sight radius, best velocity. They're the most reliable. Generally speaking, they do the things that guns do the best when they are full size. However, in the world of concealed carry, we're generally talking about something that's going to be lived with more than it's going to be shot. All right, so it has to integrate into your daily life in some capacity, still be ready and at hand to do what guns do. But pistols are a weapon of convenience and opportunity. It's what you're more likely to have when the need arises than, say, a rifle. Currently, in American culture, it's not kosher to walk around with a rifle slung across your back. It's just not. But pistols are more likely something that your people are willing to have around and about their person if the need to defend themselves arises. But everybody's tolerance for incorporating this into their daily life is different. So if we're going to move off of this, all right, if we need to maintain as much functionality of this as possible while making it more abbreviated and integratable into our daily systems, where can we abbreviate it? And specifically in the world of 1911s, there are a few standardized sizes. All right, there is full size, often referred to as government, as a reference to this is the size of pistol that the U.S. military fielded for almost 100 years. There is commander size. Commander size is full grip, 4 1/4 inch barrel. All right, so 3/4 of the barrel nipped off the end there, otherwise full size gun. And then there's officer size. Officer size is generally 3 to 3.5 inch, depending who made it. And a reduced size grip, reduced capacity grip. Depending what caliber you're in, you're giving up 1 or 2 rounds of ammunition in the magazine to have a shorter grip. Those are the standardized sizes. And of course, in over 100 years of production, people have taken various interpretations of each of those sizes. And when I was getting into concealed carry, a trendy and talked about variant of that was a bobtailed commander. And that's really what I want to talk about today, because these are still out there. Dan Wesson still makes these. They still make this pistol and a few variations of this frame in other models. Springfield came out with one. I think Kimber has something similar. I haven't cared about Kimber, well, really ever, but certainly not in a long time. A few different manufacturers make these, and of course all the custom shops make them. So bobtail commanders. This was super hot in the late 2000s when I was first getting into concealed carry, swimming in all of the internet forums. Man, you just weren't cool if you didn't have a bobtail commander. What is a bobtail commander? Well, it's a full frame commander sized gun, but essentially what they did, and I believe Ed Brown, Mr. Ed Brown, was the one that figured this out. They use a shortened mainspring housing. All right, so they take the mainspring housing out of the back of an officer-sized gun, which means they have the shortened spring, the shortened hammer strut, and the housing to go with it. So a shorter operating system to power the hammer. They use an officer-sized mainspring, and then with the newfound dead space, they essentially nip this corner off the back here, because this is one of those no straight lines in nature things. All right, anything the human eye sees likes straight angles and whatnot, but also we notice when straight lines are present because they're not natural. So if you're looking at a person, all right, an animal, for all practical intents and purposes, if you're looking at something that's natural, like a person, and then all of a sudden there's a right angle on there, we catch that as not natural. All right, and this is one of the more prominent places. Like if this is in a holster, all right, if this is in a holster, this proud sharp corner is going to be the first thing, like it's profile wise, it's going to be the first thing that sticks out, and it's going to have a telltale signature against clothing, depending what kind of clothing you have. Now, if you're wearing something like a jacket, that won't really matter, but if it's a t-shirt, something thin, it's going to get a little bit of a profile that will catch the critical eye. All right, and this is what people were looking to reduce when they did things like bobtail grips. So they said, okay, we will use the shorter operating system, and then we will nip this corner. We will blend this corner so that when this rides in a gun, the most proud part of the grip is not a sharp point, all right? Making it more concealable. That was the thought. And as an added bonus, we still have a full-size grip. We can still use a full-size magazine. We can get all our fingers on there. We have a full grip, and we're just kind of giving up this part of the grip in the back here that we don't really use. Pay attention to that. All right, so we're not really giving up a whole lot back here. I mean, all the grip pressure is up on front. We're just gonna like squeeze it like this. That's really how most guns work. So you're not really giving up a whole lot, so we can just cut that off, and we'll have a more concealable signature. Seemed like a good idea at the time, you know, and I wanted one. I bought one, obviously, and this is one of the first 1911s I ever had. First purpose-built carry gun I probably bought, and one that I probably have some of the most time on, just because my collection was smaller at that time, and I've had it for a lot of years. So a lot of time on this gun, and this was one of the schools of thought at the time. Dan Wesson did a really good job of bringing these into the market at a much more affordable price, because if this just would have been a custom feature forever, I don't know that it would have been very popular, because just at the end of the day, there aren't a whole lot of people buying Ed Browns. There just aren't. They're not spending semi-custom money, especially at that time. So this kind of put a custom feature in an attainable price point at the time, which is how I got it. Another school of thought at the time, even in that same line, was the CCO. And Dan Wesson actually marketed it as the CCO. That is the actual model. It's discontinued now. I actually tried to find one to buy one because I wanted one for a long time. They're very hard to find at the present moment. So for the most part, CCOs live in the custom realm right now, but competing schools of thought into how to efficiently reduce the signature of a 1911 style pistol was a CCO. And in that, they used the same top end. All right, so we have a full commander top end, and all the good stuff that goes with it. And then they put it on an officer-sized grip. All right, so we're using the reduced capacity magazine on essentially a full-size slide. And at the time was fairly trendy to do this in polymer frame pistols as well. A Glock 17 grip chop was a fairly common customization to do at the time when the Glock line was smaller and they still had all the patents, so other companies like Shadow Systems had not started cloning it yet. But a Glock 17 grip chop was an equally popular modification at this time. The thought being we get a full-size slide, full recoil system, recoil spring system in here, and we're giving up some magazine capacity, but in the holster, that is the hardest part to hide. Length and then what its signature is. So a CCO. Now, at the time, I was in the school of thought of they all fall the ball, right? Like 45 is king. So I can have a full magazine of 45 ACP and reduce that signature. This was the route that I went. In hindsight, after over 15 years, tons of shooting, as a shooter, I am also more proficient now. I can tell you that this is a sacrifice that gives up, is probably, the juice is not worth the squeeze. All right, I'll say that. Because as time has gone on, truth be told, while this is a quality pistol, all right, so it is well made, it groups well, it has a good trigger, it has all the desirable characteristics, it's comfortable to wear and all that stuff. Whenever I actually shot it, it is not one of my favorite guns to shoot. It's not even in the top 5. All right. I just never really dug it as a shooting iron. When I was first getting started in competition shooting and I was shooting IDPA, sometimes I would bring this out to an IDPA match in rotation where normally I was shooting a full-size gun, not this one, but one like this. Normally I was shooting a government-sized gun. I would rotate this one in so I could train as I fight and all that fun stuff, just to get some reps on it. I never did as well with this one as I would have liked. So like cost per round on this gun, I like to say fairly high. Cost per round on, say, this gun, fairly low, because I've shot this one a lot, for those of you who aren't good at math. It isn't particularly desirable to shoot with full power loads or my reduced power loads, but it was something that I just carried for a while. But given that, usually I would just prefer to carry a big gun. But Bobtails are back. More people are marketing these and people are asking me about them. So as a shooter, I can tell you, you give up quite a bit here. Because remember, we were talking about not giving up a whole lot here, trying to conceal this profile, all right? In an officer size profile, essentially what you're reducing is just under a ½ inch. Depending on the magazine you use, the specific gun you use. I measured this off camera a little bit, but essentially the signature that you're reducing the grip in an officer frame gun is essentially the bottom of that grip screw to the end of wherever the magazine is, whether you use a flush fit magazine or a reduced signature magazine or, you know, a full signature magazine. It's a shade under a ½ inch of extra grip that you're sticking out here, that physically exists, that you have to hide, but we have this broken edge here. So the thought being is that it's still reduced. I don't know that actually really played out in real life, because this actually, you give up, you know, it is physically shorter, but where it lands in your hand, you still get a full grip in my hands. I have fairly large hands. I wear a size large glove to give you an idea. All right, so when I fold, it doesn't feel like a small gun to me, like I thought officer-sized guns would feel. All right, so when my hand lands on here, I have a full firing grip. All my fingers are on board on the front, and I have full palm support in the back. So from where my finger is all the way up to the top of the beaver tail, that is all solid contact of the pistol. That is all also leverage. All right, so remember, we're trying to control recoil here, and recoil is the path of least resistance in your grip. All right, because we're releasing energy, so equal and opposite reaction here. Energy's going forward, energy's coming back. Recoil is the weakness in your grip. The stronger your grip is, the more the gun just goes straight back and forth, right? That's shooting technique. All right, part of that is how much leverage you have over the gun and where the gun can pivot. All right, so in my hand here, it can pivot from here. If we're honest about where a bobtail gun hits my hand, it actually pivots from here. So the lever that the gun has to recoil against is a lot shorter, which means its propensity to roll in my hand is increased. So I feel like I have more control, more recoil control on the shorter grip, the physically shorter grip of a CCO than a bobtail, because the actual contact surface of a bobtail grip is much shorter. All right, so suffice to say, if the reason you're getting a bobtail gun is because you want a reduced signature, I think you're going to get reduced signature and increased shootability in a CCO style gun. All right, because you physically have a half-inch less of gun to hide, and the real estate that you do have is more efficient and more correct for how you want the gun to interact with your hand. All right, so I think a CCO is probably the most efficient size of 1911 for concealed carry. All right, I have a pretty much full-size operating system, full-size sight radius. If you're into that, I get a full firing grip on there, and then yeah, it's as size efficient as possible. Well, if that's the case, why not go to a completely officer-sized gun, a reduced barrel length gun as well? The reason for that in concealed carry is, while this would seem like, if this is more smaller than this, and the idea is to hide it, if this is a fully functional gun, why wouldn't we carry this? Well, because in most belt-mounted systems, what helps the gun tuck the butt in, which is the part we're trying to hide, what helps tuck the butt in is how much the holster pulls the gun inboard towards our body, but also how long the barrel is helps lay the gun flat against our side here. The shorter the barrel is, the more the gun can tip and tilt away from the focal point. All right, so depending on the size of holster, the type of holster you have this gun in, a little bit of length actually helps it lay against your body. All right, which is why I'm not just being a gun guy when I say I think the big guns are the most concealable. I think this is one of the most concealable handgun systems I have, as counterintuitive as that would be. Same thing here. I have a longer profile to help tuck the gun in closer to me, but I have reduced some weight in making it smaller. I've made this more size efficient. So I see the longer barrel of this system as a concealment advantage more so than a disadvantage. Where would I use a system like this? This is a system that I pretty much use when I can't dress around the gun. So if I have to wear clothing that won't support the weight of a gun, picture a suit. All right, go to a wedding or something like that. Kind of wedding where it's not cool to open carry guns. I don't know why anyone would have that kind of wedding, but they seem to happen more often than not. But if you're trying to wear attire that is not necessarily conducive to wearing guns, all right, So it has to be as small as possible. It also has to be as light as possible because you're not wearing a proper belt. That is where a gun like this starts to make more sense to me. Outside of those systems, I don't feel any less encumbered carrying this gun than I do this gun, and this gun lays flatter and works better as a gun, so I choose this gun. Another place that an officer-sized gun would work well is in a shoulder holster, all right? Because a shoulder holster, now we're not trying to hide the grip. You know, in a horizontal shoulder holster, the grip is hidden. Now we have a barrel profile that we're trying to hide. All right, the more that thing sticks out, all right, that starts to be a signature that is going to show on the gun. And so me, I'm a fairly large stature guy. There are definitely people bigger than me, but when I played football, I was a lineman. All right, I'm a big guy. All right, it is hard for me to conceal a 5-inch gun in a shoulder rig unless I'm wearing a big coat. So if I wanted to use a shoulder holster to more discreetly carry a gun because I didn't have a belt system to hide it, or I didn't have enough of an overhang of a concealment garment to hide it, maybe I'm wearing a vest, but a vest that ends, you know, more towards my navel, this would be a gun that I could hide more because I need the reduced barrel signature to tuck in that particular space. So I see officer-sized guns as niche guns because it's a little bit too small for its own good, both in concealment and just working as a gun. These guns can run very finicky. This particular one, and all the ECOs, that's Dan Weston's model name for this, all the ECOs I've ever seen have been great guns and they work great. All makes and manufacturers and models of officer guns do not share that reputation. More often than not, officer-sized guns have horrible functional reliability. All right, this is a good one. Not all of them are, but you're giving up a lot, both in some help and concealability, but also functionality of the gun itself in an officer-sized gun. So I really like the CCO guns. I found these very late in my career. I just got some not too long ago. I liked it so much that I got 2 of them. All right, so I have 2 of these particular guns at the moment, and I like these quite a bit. Both of these happen to be Alchemy's. Alchemy calls it the Prime Compact. This one is an older one when they were called the Brimstone. But Alchemy, they call it a Prime Compact. In Nighthawk, it would be called a T3. In a Les Bear, it would be called a Comanche. And I believe in Wilson Combat Land, they would just call it a Compact. They couldn't come up with a cool name for it. Shame on them. Well, I guess Prime Compact's kind of the same. Anyway, Wilson calls it a Compact. So a lot of the custom manufacturers make this size of gun. And currently my favorite, if I can't carry or don't want to carry a full-size gun, I really like these. One of the choices you have to make in CCOs is, do you want a magwell or not on them? All right, and so some of the thought being, like, if you're trying to get this grip as concealable as possible, wouldn't we want a non-magwell and a flush fit magazine? But I was talking with Eli over at Alchemy Custom, because I bother him on a daily basis, and he said the challenge on these is flush fit magazines. Your selection, your options in magazines, flush fit magazines, is pretty terrible. These are Chip McCormick's that were OE at the time for these. The Dan Wesson ECO, it comes with, I believe, Metal Form or Dawson mags. They're okay, but the flush fit magazine options are just kind of okay in officer sized guns. That's why, like, now an Alchemy will come with a words are difficult trip, basically a chopped, this is actually a chopped full size trip magazine with a full base pad on. Now, if you have a non-flush base pad in there, you might as well have a magwell to dress that all up. All right, so I was a little bit indecisive, so I got both, but a officer size grip with a magwell and a full size base plate in it. Kind of the ticket. You're still 0.4 of an inch shorter than a commander grip in here, but those are some of the options there. This, even with a magwell, I feel like I have full functionality. Do I think I could go and rip Grandmaster classifiers with this thing? I don't know, but I look forward to trying. But I feel like I have full functionality of a full-size gun in an officer size grip. But for ultimate in low profile, you can just sans the magwell and then you get something really short. But I have currently my favorite size efficient 1911 is a CCO. I currently have 2 of them, and now I have the conundrum of which one of these is going to get cut for a red dot, because in my world I just need one. So haven't decided. Maybe you can help me down in the comments below which one should go get the red dot cut for test and evaluation and integration into systems. But currently, from a size efficient standpoint, I prefer a CCO. So at the initial fork in the road, these were both kind of on the table when I got into concealed carry. I went this route. I'm here to tell you, you can save all that time and mileage. If you're looking for a size efficient 1911, I would go the CCO route. So hopefully that was interesting, entertaining for all of you. I'm going to go ahead and retire this gun once again into the deep dark corner of the safe. If you have any questions on carry guns, carry systems, anything shooting related that's in my lane, leave it down below. Share with your friends if you think this is something you want to continue on. And yeah, let me know what you guys want to hear. And if it's in my lane to talk about, God knows I'll come down here and talk about it. So until then, see you guys next time.